Good morning. Thank you for being here. At this time, I'm going to call on Councilwoman Trudy Solomon to lead us in an invocation.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to be here to just to be part of our town and to represent in whatever way you've called us. Lord, I ask blessings upon this conversation today, all the thoughts and energy and efforts that go into our decisions, our plans, our proposals, just the future of our town, Lord. I ask blessings upon all of that in your heavenly name. Amen.
And at this time, Mayor Pro-Tem
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, I want to welcome you and thank you for being here today. I need a motion to allow Councilwoman Alicia Hawley to join us remotely.
I'll make a motion to do that.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes to allow Councilwoman Alicia Hawley to join us remotely. Good morning, Alicia.
Good morning.
So at this time, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First item on the agenda is annexation petition, and Carla will lead us in the annexation.
This is a petition from Tom LLC for contiguous annexation into the town. It's Pender County PIN 42256473840000. It's approximately 9.48 acres located at 209 North Alena Court, which is the area behind Magnolia Reserve adjacent to Saltwater Landing. And they're asking, this would be just the consent for the resolution to allow the clerk to investigate. And then after that, just for knowledge, they'll have to go to the planning board for suggested zoning, and then they will come back to be approved. I just need consensus.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions to allow Carla to investigate the annexation?
No.
So do we have a full consensus?
I agree.
Yes.
Ms. Hawley?
Yes.
Okay. We are a full consensus. Item number 2, the abandoned vessel ordinance. And Chief Voorhees will present.
Good morning. It's good to see everybody. So basically what you have before you is a request to repeal our old town ordinance and to authorize the new town ordinance for abandoned and junked vessels. Give you a little background on this. Recently, the North Carolina General Assembly granted authority for the town of Surf City, not only Surf City, but North Topsail Beach and Topsail Beach also, to create regulations to address abandoned or junk marine vessels within our jurisdictional boundaries. Previously, statutory authority was only granted to counties within the state, as well as a small amount of municipalities, and it's House Bill 449 that's going to give us that authorization to pass this ordinance. From time to time, we have vessels that are abandoned or junked within the town's authority and in our jurisdiction, and enforcement was left up to state agencies. We didn't have a direct avenue for enforcement, and that proved pretty challenging when we tried to enforce any junked or abandoned vessel. We kind of got stonewalled. There wasn't really an avenue for us to approach it, and a positive outcome for the town. The new ordinance is going to grant Surf City law enforcement the power to investigate and remove vessels from the town and deem them abandoned or junked. Town Ordinance Chapter 11, Article 5, Section 1191 to 11116 was our old ordinance. Was not authorized by any legislative authority, and when we sent it for legal review, they came back and told us basically it was non-enforceable, and they did not recommend it, that the town could be held liable if we removed the vessel or incurred some other cost, that it would remain with us, and obviously we'd be liable for that. So, and what we're asking for is that you would authorize a new chapter, which is Chapter 20, Article 1, Section 20-1 to 20-11, titled Abandoned or Junked Vehicles, and that's pursuant to House Bill 449 with specific authorization under General Statute 160A-205.6. And if anybody has any questions about that ordinance specifically, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Just wanted to let you and council know that I have shared this draft with both Topsail Beach and North Topsail Beach for hopeful consistency with the language, as this was also a priority, legislative priority through the Topsail Island Shoreline Protection Commission. So that's sort of an additional history and background beyond the chief's review of the ordinance and enforcement. And also too, we don't see this as, our last effort is going to try to incur cost from the town in enforcing this ordinance and or a responsible party, but we'd never had the tools to even be able to do that. And as the chief had mentioned, state resources are very slim in regards to this, and their funding is limited. Generally, they'll receive some appropriations from the General Assembly for removal and abandonment, but then those vessels get put on a list, and it can be a very long time. So this just gives us another tool in our toolbox to be able to address these for not only the view shed, but environmental protections as well for our waterways.
The new ordinance is also much broader and sets very specific timelines for when we have to let the vessel owner know how many days can go by, how much time can elapse before another citation is issued. So it's very specific, and it puts that process in a very specific light and what exactly we need to do, so, which is much clearer than the old ordinance.
Anyone have any discussion?
And Kyle, you may have explained this, and it just went over my head. I can't imagine this is inexpensive to remove
No, it's
a
not.
vessel.
So I would much rather encourage a vessel owner to remove it on their own than have the town incur the cost.
If for some reason we did incur the cost, what's the avenue to recoup that cost back?
In the ordinance, the responsibility would fall on the vessel owner. The town would obviously probably have to pay, or would have to pay up front to have that vessel removed, and then the vessel owner at the end of the day would be responsible for the cost.
And through finance, there's methods in place for collections on things like this. We would hope that the citation and or threat of citation, as those billed each day that vessel is out there, that is going to be carried enough to put somebody in motion to do something about it, because coupled with citation costs plus removal, it's a pretty big deal, especially depending on size of vessel, where it's at, what other remediatory factors have to come into play, and even if and when this does occur, we will still rely on our state partners and any other partners that have a say-so in this abandoned or derelict vessel issue, so that we're doing this the right way.
In the past, derelict vessels, Coastal Federation, Carrie Allen with Coastal Federation, they had a group that came by and picked up like sunken vessels, correct?
Yeah, or just general. They would categorize an abandoned vessel as marine debris, and they have been receiving some state funding, through the annual budget appropriation to help remove them. But the action of declaring it abandoned or derelict would have still had to go through the State Wildlife Resources Commission because the Coastal Fed is not the regulatory agency. They just have some resources to help clean up the marine debris. So we still would have relied on Wildlife Resources Commission to come out, do the investigation, on their time, and make that determination according to their laws. So,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was really geared toward after storms and vessels that have been washed away by storms and left abandoned.
well, and they've applied it a little more broadly since we're I don't even want to say any. I don't even want to talk about these storms or debris, but they have annually still been obtaining funding through the state to do additional marine debris cleanup. So yeah, if there was one identified, it still can be put on a list, and they're going to address it. But making sure we get on that list is something that is the challenge.
Okay. One last thing I wanted to state was the ordinance, the new ordinance, the Chapter 20, would not only give us an avenue for civil violation, but it'd also give us an avenue for criminal violation and classify that ordinance violation as a Class 3 misdemeanor. So we could go civil or criminal.
Any other discussion? Do we have a consensus to move forward with the resolution?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3, the fiscal year budget calendar. Look at Kyle.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor, and good morning, fellow council members, staff, good morning, and resident. This is no action requested or necessary for this. This is just informational purposes. Under Ms. Moore's guidance, last Friday we held a little budget kickoff meeting with all department heads, presented them the budget calendar and some basic structure and outline as to how the budget will be prepared. So what you have in front of you is simply a notated calendar or important dates, key milestones in which we need to meet in order to be successful for the fiscal year 25 budget. So as you can see, we are on our way towards capital requests being due January 31st. We have challenged our department heads to try and look even further beyond the 5 and 10 year horizon, but try and estimate capital needs beyond that. Capital needs generally right now are $50,000 procurements, equipment, goods, et cetera, that we try to plan for within the capital improvement plan, and then within that plan we program what's going to be actually funded within the budget. So those will be due January 31st. That'll be good timing as we then get into our retreat February 7th and 8th. And then the line item budget entry will be due at the end of February. And that's the huge spreadsheet that you all are familiar with or will get familiar with. We will then hold departmental budget reviews and discussions the week of March 4th through 8th, and that's where Melissa and I meet with the department head to go over what they have submitted, ask questions of them as to why they're submitting it and or requesting additional justification so that we can prepare and present this information back to council, with some understandings there. March 15th will be your council work session and budget workshop, so they will get the opportunity to talk to you about some of their key points in their budget, any sort of major changes or major new requests. We will then continue to analyze for the next month. This is where we are really looking at revenue projections and budget requests and making those difficult decisions to get you to a balanced budget and a recommendation for your consideration. So then we'll submit that to you for consideration on April 19th. And then we will go into May 7th as your budget public hearing that's statutorily required and consideration for adoption. After the 19th of April, we'd like to have a good understanding as far as council's direction on the budget, because if we have more work to do, then we would reserve, the May 17 work session, to discuss those before that adoption process. So, again, this is just a overview and outlines those key dates that we are targeting for the next several months, moving forward for, again, the fiscal year 25 budget. So that's all I wanted to present.
Anybody have any questions concerning the calendar? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item is the BOA Surf City Live 2024. And Jody Shepherd's going to present.
Morning, Madam Mayor and Council. This morning I'm going to go through an overview of our 2023 Surf City Live event, as well as highlights of the event, and then potential opportunities looking into 2024. So I'm actually going to move over so that way I can present from there.
You want to turn your mic around, Carla? Maybe for.
Or maybe somebody can just bring the podium over to
Where would you like?
Appreciate it. All right, so when it comes to the overview of our event for 2023, this event took place on Saturday, November 3rd in Soundside Park. Full departmental efforts were utilized for this event. So again, following the rules and regulations of a ticketed event, just like last year. Our event capacity was 3,000, so we saw an increase this year, 500 people for our total capacity, and then total tickets sold was 2,750, an increase of 440. Sponsorship tickets were at 200, and our reserve band tickets were at 50. So again, full team effort from all town departments, as well as our internal special event committee, to make this event possible. Event setup and breakdown and traffic control were some main aspects of this event. I apologize, one of our photos messed up there, but I do have some photos from this year that gives you our very organized and clean lines for entry into our venue space at Soundside Park, as well as an overview later into the day that shows our ticket holders and event attendees in that photo. So overview of our marketing, how did we get here? So what was the purpose of this event when we started this last year? So last year, we were trying to focus on our Surf City marketing plan. So focusing on that shoulder season and getting people into Surf City during that October to April timeframe. So again, 2023 was our second year of Surf City Live. We did make some recommended changes and increase capacity of the venue space. Those were the noticeable changes that were made from last year to this year. And then our tickets sold out this year the same day they went on sale. So last year, our tickets did sell out as well, but it took a little bit longer. This year, we were able to sell those tickets out in one day. So when it comes to our budget, I do want to highlight some of the aspects of our budget. So when it comes to our main expenditures, that was our main acts, our production, our opening acts, and then our headliner. Security, off-duty police officers, EMS, drone security. So everything that you see highlighted in this top area right here, that was the majority and the bulk of your major costs for this event. And when it comes to our revenues, you're going to see our net ticket sales at the top, and then you're going to see everything below it, which is our beverage and merchandise sales, our sponsorship opportunities, different levels that we have, add-on tickets for our sponsors, pavilions, and then our food truck fees for permitted and non-permitted food trucks for this event. So you will see that we expended $208,271.45, and that our revenues that we brought in was $257,197.34. So you're going to see a profit of $48,925.89 for this year's 2023 event.
Is there any way that we can get a print off of that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we can do that. So when we went into our 2023 event debrief, I have a couple different slides that we're going to go through that's going to give you the overall debrief with different aspects and different groups that we talked with. So overall, 2023 was a great success for us. The following information below is the recommendations from internal staff debrief meetings. So that special event committee that is primarily of department heads, internal staff that are overseeing this event. These were the items that we saw that we needed to put some additional focus on going into the next year. So we do need additional security for next year. We have increased our numbers. We've learned over the last few years where security works, where it doesn't work. So we're going to have to make some changes to that looking into the future. And then where security is stationed, again, we need to focus on some different areas that we've done in the past. Additional trained crowd control managers. We were able to utilize volunteers for this year. It went very well for us, but we need to have additional ones as we look into the future for upcoming events. Additional staffing and volunteers are needed. We were able to really utilize volunteers this year that we weren't able to do that last year. We weren't prepared for that. But we know that there's more volunteers and additional staff that will be needed to streamline this event as we move into the future. We know that we need to focus on an updated volunteer process. We need to start this earlier throughout the year. We need to have a designated staff member that is responsible for overseeing this division and being that point person for those individual volunteers to go to. We need to look at where food trucks, we need to make some changes to what they are responsible for. That doesn't fall back on us as the town. We need to update the number of food trucks to fit within the area because, again, as we are bringing in more people into the area, making sure that it fits the space. We need to make some changes to our VIP parking lot and arrival time and make those updates. Every year, as we continue to grow or continue to streamline our events, we need to look at our sponsorship options and those opportunities for our sponsors and updating that VIP area to fit that space so everything works cohesively. Additional lighting around our merchandise areas. It was a little dark this year. Again, staff and volunteers, something that we noticed this year that differed from last year. We did add some more people to the space. We need additional people to help with cleanup on Sunday. The process did take us a little bit longer this year than we anticipated, so we need to be prepared for that next year so that way everything is carried along much smoother and the public is completely aware of what that process is going to look like. Wristbands may not be needed for that general admission area. We noticed that this year that we were prepared for that, but it wasn't necessarily necessary. We need additional cattle gate. We did purchase some additional cattle gate last year, but even with putting that with what we currently have, we still need more to be able to control the environment and the space. Additional radios will be needed for next year as we add additional people to the space and additional staff. We need to make sure that our staff and our volunteers have the necessary equipment to be able to streamline this and for safety protocols. We need to look at pushing back the entry time to the venue. We did learn this year that by having additional acts, things come up. They needed some more time for sound check than what we had anticipated. So by pushing that time back a little bit, it gives them the ability that when the public is coming into the space, they are getting a true experience and they're not coming in where we're still finishing up. They're paying for a ticket. We want them to have a good experience when they come into the space. And then looking into ticket share options. We saw this year that, we had groups that may buy 10 tickets for their family. Is there a way for them to ticket share those options so that way those family members that are coming from different places or those individuals, they'll be able to have access to those tickets and not rely on one individual person for that. So below here, we have a couple different areas that we're going to discuss. So some of our most highly requested items from our 2024 Surf City Live improvements from our attendees survey. As we go through these slides, we will have some information on our surveys that went out to our sponsors and our attendees to get their feedback. So they had requested that we improve the sound to the general admission seating area. We had some people who said they were hard of hearing. They couldn't hear very well. We did push that general admission section back a little farther this year because there was more seats in that area. So that's something we need to looking at. Additional porta-johns, we need to add those to the space. We did make changes from last year to this year, but we still need to increase that. They had talked about possibility of raising the stage or elevating artists for improved viewing of the stage area. And then the next set is some feedback that we received from the attendee surveys that we are considering for next year's improvement. So these are some things that we're looking at that's saying we can do that. We can make those changes that are necessary for next year. So we need to have better signage when people are coming in for our lines and entrances. There's still a lot of people coming into the area and they're going, oh, where am I supposed to go? You know, there might be another 500 feet before they meet a sign that tells them where they need to go. We need to be prepared to push those items back so that way before they even have that thought and they're asking that question, oh, it's right there. It's telling me where I need to go and what I need to do. We need to look at designated seating area for handicap accessible. We need to do a better job of this. We did the best we could this year, but there's things that we can continue to work on that can make that a better experience. And it's a more thought-through process that works with the venue space and the park. The parking area, we need to look at that when it comes to parking. And then the possibility of other bands and genres in the future, and then adding variety to our showcase, and then adding additional days to this event. And then currently we have produced the following solutions for some of the issues that have been discussed above. So we've talked about adding the elevated speakers to the general admission seating area so that way you can hear better back there. Additional porta-johns, we can add those. Again, we're looking at elevated surfaces to put on the stage that artists perform on so that way the general admission section and those other areas will be able to see better. And then we're looking into the best options for that accessible handicap seating. So like I discussed above, we're going to have some survey questions that I want to go through that I think are very beneficial to see our numbers and see where people are coming from and where they're spending their money. So again, a post-event survey went out to all of our ticket holders and our sponsors. So we obtained a lot of positive feedback. We obtained demographic information, you know, where they stayed in Surf City, if they shopped, if they dined, as well as 167 attendees participated in this survey. So what you see over here is you see different price points. So we're asking our attendees that filled out this survey, other than tickets, food, and beverages at the concert, about how much money did you spend in Surf City during this event. So under $50, they said 21.69%, $50 to $100, 27%, $100 to $200, 12%, and then over $200 was 8.43%, and then 30% said I only spent money at the concert. What activities did you participate in while visiting Surf City for this event? So, stayed in Surf City hotel or vacation rental, that was roughly 4%. Shopped at Surf City business, that was 25%. Dined at a Surf City restaurant or bar, that was roughly 40%. Purchased gas, snacks at a Surf City convenience store, 16%. And then I only visited Surf City just for the concert, that was a little over 9%. And then I'm not visiting, I'm local. That was roughly 55%. So right here we're looking at roughly 55% of our participation that came to this event were classified as local to the area. And then we asked this question, how would you rate your overall experience in Surf City Live? So out of our total 167 attendees / sponsors that filled out this survey, we got an overall 4.6 rating. I was so happy to see this. This is a kudo to our staff. This is a kudo to our volunteers, everybody that assisted with this event. This is a big deal. We did a great job, and the public saw that. We did not get rated a 1 or 2 at all. From a 3 all the way to a 5, with primarily a 5 being 66% of the group that filled out this question for us. So when looking at other areas that are similar in size or larger in size, such as Raleigh and whatnot, we are either slightly above or right at the same rating as those areas. So we're doing a good job, and they're appreciating it. So now I want to shift over to some marketing of ticket data. So out of the 2,750 tickets sold, 2,423 people attended this event. So that meant we had 327 no-shows. All of our tickets sold, but we only had 327 people who decided maybe something came up, it didn't work with their schedule. So that gives the breakdown of that. Primarily local attendance. So 770 attendees had either Surf City or Holly Ridge zip code. And then 632 attendees had either a Hampstead zip code. So you'll see our breakdown over here. So you'll see 178 of our tickets were purchased from the Hampstead area, Surf City, Holly Ridge, Sneads Ferry, and then so on. Now breaking this down a little bit more. So when it comes, I think it's important for us to look, how many repeat attendees do we have? So from last year's event to this year event, 30% of our repeats, or excuse me, 30% of our participants that came to our event this year, 30% of them attended last year. And then 70% was at their first time. So when looking at where these individuals came from, Surf City was 40% of where our repeats. So we have made a localized event, and then you see where they're filtering Hampstead, Sneads Ferry, Wallace, and then moving through. So I have this very pretty picture up here. I'm going to paint you a picture of some of the kudos that Surf City got for this event this year. So these are some of the comments that were left in our survey, or some of the comments that were left to our staff for this event. So some of these comments was, I really enjoyed the event. He put on a great concert in a family-friendly environment. I would like to see more of these events. I was very impressed with staff keeping the event safe and family-friendly. It was very organized and accommodating for us. You guys have done an awesome job with the past 2 concerts. Thank you for all your hard work, and continue to put these on. We love these events. The planning put into these shows is amazing. We look forward to seeing more of these. Everyone we spoke to at this event told us how well attended it was and how well organized this event was. And then the last one I have for you. I thought this event was great. One of the best concerts that I've been to. We love the variety of local food trucks and drink options at the venue. Seating was very well organized. The check-in process and tickets and locating our seats was overall easy. It was a phenomenal experience for our family. So now, moving forward into 2024. When looking at opportunities that we could have diving into the future. So we have the opportunity where we could move to a 2-day event. And that cost we would be asking would be $500,000. So what does that really mean? So in the past, we have put in $225,000 to our event this year. We would ask for that increase of $500,000. So roughly that would be $250,000 per day, which is about 11% increase per day from what we saw this year. So some of those major additions that would be encompassed in that cost is 2 days of artist and production. So that's roughly 70% of what we spent in 2023 was just on those items. Security cost of security, our contracted staff for the event, increase in certain supplies that are necessary. And then we're anticipating some reductions in certain cost factors, such as production. They're only going to give us 1 setup and 1 breakdown cost. So that is going to be slightly lower. It's not going to be double. And then when it comes to increased revenue, so we're anticipating that doubling. So you're going to have 2 days, so that's increased ticket sales twice. Additional increased sponsorship opportunities. So just our sponsorship opportunities for this year's event was between 40 and 45% of the revenue that we brought in. So anticipating that we would see that times 2 in a 2-day event. Increased beverage and merchandise sales. You've got 2 days of those items. And then what's the impact from our marketing plan standpoint? So accommodation taxes, bringing people into the area. Instead of just having one night of that, you would have the potential of having 2 nights. You know, we look at accommodation taxes. This event is put on by the use of those taxes. So looking at that and the opportunity to utilize those funds and to continue to raise those funds in the future by doing events like this. And then when we talk about return on investment, so we talked about what we expended this year was $208,000 roughly, and then our revenue that we brought in was roughly $257,000. So we had a 23.5 return on our investment this year. So that profit was roughly $48,000 that we brought in. So you have the potential, if you move forward in a 2-day event, you could potentially look at bringing in that return on investment at least that amount or possibly more. So that is all I have with the presentation. If there's any questions that I could answer, anything that you have, I can definitely share this PowerPoint presentation with you, as well as get you the necessary budget printout so you have that to look at.
I just want to say something real quick. I just want to say kudos, Jody, to you and Amanda, the entire staff. We can go through this time and time again, but anytime that, you know, when you guys asked for $225,000, you spent $208,000, and you give us back a 23% return on that money. I think that's a great investment, and I don't think many events, or if any events that we put on in our city, do that. So this is, and I think, Melissa, you like that aspect. Is that correct? Our finance person. So I wish every event that we did had that type of return, but our events are not set up that way. This one happens to be set up that way. So I think it is absolutely fantastic. So great presentation.
As far as like the sponsorship, what was the amount that we received on sponsorship?
I wish I had a copy of this.
90,000, Jody. Yeah, 90,000 was the cash, and 12.5 was the in-kind portion. Yeah, correct.
We did have some in-kind sponsorship at our event for some of the necessary items that we needed to put the event on, such as porta-johns, things of that capacity, trash cans.
And as far as like all the additional stuff that you had said that you would need to upgrade to next year to make it a better event, is there an estimated cost on that upgrade?
For it being a one-day event?
Well, either way, I mean, you said there was a lot of like estimated like for cattle gate and
flags and
we don't have that list, so we can't see. If you could print off that whole presentation for all of us, that would probably be very beneficial. That way we can see, and if you could estimate the cost of the breakdown of the anticipation of what you think that, you know, that cost would be to upgrade it to where you think it would be next year.
I can do that. 'Cause I
back
will
up a
utilize-
couple of slides too. I apologize. I
No,
cut you
it's
off.
okay.
That wasn't my intention.
Which one?
I think the next, where it gave the breakdown of predictions of sponsorships, and
So back to our budget from this year?
it was closer to the end. I apologize.
It's okay. Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. I think it's this one.
All right, additional increased sponsorship opportunities up to 50%. Now, what is that?
So this year, our sponsorships for total amount of revenue that was brought in for our event, that sponsorship was roughly between 40 and 45% of that total. Does that make sense?
So are we predicting if we go 2 days, they're going to pay double?
So potentially, depending on the sponsorship opportunities that we have. So for instance, it may be $2,000 for 2 days, or it may be $1,500. So if we have one sponsor that's interested in sponsoring both days, we're anticipating that we would do a decrease, so it would be a cut for them to do 2 days. But if they were only interested in 1 day, they would pay the $1,000. And then if somebody else wanted to come in and pay just 1 day, they would pay. So we could potentially make double on some of our sponsorship opportunities.
I think, Councilman Cannady, I believe what staff was trying to communicate here is that the model moving forward would be consistency with having revenues matching 40% of our expenditure for any event, for any concert event. Whether that be 1 day, 2 days, 17 days, you know, whatever it might be, that 40% threshold is what they need to be setting up their expectations to achieve for us to be successful.
And if I could also, Councilman Kennedy, I was in charge of the sponsorship this last year, and we sold sponsorship out in about a week. There was about 30 sponsors plus that we didn't have room for sponsorship opportunities. So, I mean, that doesn't include the sponsorship that contacted the city. So we don't have enough room for sponsorship. This is an event that is driven by our city. Our business owners are chawing at the bit to be able to do something like this. And so anytime that you know what it's like to try to get them, Jody, to sponsor an event at the park typically. You know, you got to spend some time going after that process. Well, these sponsors, these business owners are waiting for that process to happen. And also to your question about buying some items additionally. One of the things that we've talking with this about is the revenue. So, taking an event like this, the revenue quantifies the purchasing of things. So, for example, a second day at 4,000 tickets, okay, the revenue from that over-quantifies purchasing some extra items that we need that then now we own. For example, if we need more Cattlegate and we have to buy $6,000 or $8,000 in Cattlegate, well, that's a one-time purchase that the ticket sales from the second day will pay for that process. So nothing that this committee sat down and did was, I think we sat down and we looked at, in order to move forward with a second day, our increase is really about 60 to 70% in expense, not 100% expense, 100% increase, because you're not spending double money on 2 days. Typically, in a concert, you have your day and that's it. Well, to do a second day, your expenses come down when you move to a second day, but your revenues don't change. They stay as high as possible. So your expense comes down, but your revenues go up. And that's the unique process about doing a concert like this. And I think what, Jody, you talked about was brilliant in the beginning of this part, how we started here. You know, off-season business is critical here, super critical for us. I know our restaurant, unlike every other bar and restaurant in Surf City, saw an increase that weekend in sales. And that's what we want, is we want our businesses to be able to say, hey, we made some money in November, because that's a tough, you know, it's been a tough November and a tough December down here. But I think it's because it's a little colder. So just keep in mind that expenses are not going up at the rate the revenues are coming in this particular process. So.
I may have read it wrong, but I didn't see anything on the survey that jumped out that said that Surf City had a windfall business increase. But like I said, I may have misread that. That's not what I do. The only thing that gives me pause is government being in the position of for-profit events. Not that I don't think Surf City Live was great, and I think it was a great opportunity for the citizens. In my mind, I kind of equate it to the fireworks. That's just wonderful. People love it, and they look forward to it. And I think this is becoming an event that people are loving, and they're looking forward to it. But I do have pause about increasing it to a second day. It looks like there's a lot of risk for the potential reward, and like you're talking about with the ticket sales and this, that, and other, it's kind of counting chickens before they hatch. It's if everything falls into place, and we've been very fortunate with weather and other things that have not caused a hindrance or a problem. I think $500,000 is a big number.
I think it is a big number, but I think based upon the request of the requesting previously and given a 23% return on the money that we requested, I think what we're doing is we're lumping both days into the same here. Really, each day is a different concert. And in fact, Jim from ECE, our production company, actually asked us to do a second day with.
Oh, no, we working for him or we working for the town? That's
No, what I'm saying is he's kind of our advisor. We kind of work with the production company that we hire them, and they kind of, wanted us to do a second day because we could have sold that second day out, and we just, at that stage, we weren't ready for that process. Also, too, I don't think the for-profit side of things, if we make $50,000 and we're able to put that towards parks and we're able to put that towards things for our city, I don't think it's a for-profit as much as it is for helping fund some things. I mean, it's about time we make a little bit of money and put it towards something instead of hemorrhaging every time we need to do something.
All right, well, let me play devil's advocate a minute. Let's say it's Friday and Saturday night, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's say Friday night goes great, and Saturday night we have a windstorm like we had the other night. There ain't no profit, man. There ain't no extra money left over.
Well, the tickets are sold ahead of time,
Now your survey's gonna look different when they can't get that money back.
and you can purchase insurance for this. We have insurances you can purchase for this stuff.
I didn't see
I
that.
was-
I didn't
I
see
had
that
a
in
question in that
there.
regard. Have we gotten quotes on insurance for that? Because I
We have.
know as a business sponsor, which we were, like, it was a great event, but I would really not be happy if I was out my sponsorship funding because of weather. So I think looking at it from a sponsorship standpoint, like, we definitely need to look into some sort of insurance. And are we going to, are we selling these as a 2-day bulk item thing? Like, is it a festival ticket where you buy both days, or are you doing them as 2 separate events? They just happen to go back to back with each other.
I think we're working those details out currently right now, too, how we want to structure the pricing, how we want to structure the event,
Because, I mean, insurance is something that I would want to see. I know me and probably anybody else in town, regardless, like, some people, this might be the one fun thing that they do a year, but it's close by, they don't have to travel if they're local, and then if they're out, if they take their whole family and they're now out $400 for a ticket, then that's a big hit to somebody not to get back as a Surf City resident. So I would like to find a way to make sure we take care of them, and I think a big part of the success was who the actual performer was. So throwing a whole bunch of money at something prior to knowing that we're going to have that same kind of turnout for somebody, kind of puts that into question too. I don't know how far we've gone with that part.
Alicia, thank you for those comments. I think also, too, keep in mind that none of this, I think, is quick trigger. I think everything that we do, we think through here 100%. And I think Kyle and Jody, Amanda, the staff spending time on this, when you have a proven track record and you have a system down, and to all your concerns, these are things that every one of these staff members we've discussed, we go through, we talk about. When you're batting 2-0 and you have a system down, we have affordable concerts, affordable opportunities for people to be able to not have to drive to Raleigh. I know, Mr. Brewer, one of the things that somebody said to you, there's never nothing to do around here. And now we've provided an opportunity for people to do some things. So, one of the things I think that's important about this is none of this is just we're throwing mud against the wall here. Every bit of this is track record. Every bit of this is proven. And, I think nobody wanted to do the first one, but we did it anyway, and it worked. And people said, well, that was just a fluke. Then we did the second one. It not only did it work, but it sold out in 15 hours. Sponsorship sold out in 1 week. And so what we're doing is we're taking a model and we're improving the model. And we're improving the business, and based on the percentages, Councilman Cannady, you were talking about, you didn't see really an influx. Kyle, what we were talking about yesterday about the increase in, based on those numbers, the percentage numbers is correct. We were talking about if we take the the attendees that did do a survey, or that whatever the percentage was, and we multiply that out based upon every attendee doing that, not only does the city benefit, but everybody benefits.
Yeah, I mean, out of 2,700 participants, and you got 170 responses, that percentage is pretty low in regards to response. So the only thing you can make an assumption, and I'll highlight assumption on that, is to take a baseline and carry that forward with the responses received, and you assume that the responses are consistent with 2,750 people. And if you took the question that was asked, did you stay in a hotel? So then you can make these assumptions of, okay, well, a hotel is going to cost on average X dollars. 6% of that comes back for occupancy tax. You extend that times the number. If everybody participated in that survey, you get that number that goes back to money in the hotel motel operator, back to the town for occupancy tax, et cetera. I think that's sort of the conversation we were having yesterday, to try and extract some of that information or data. Is difficult for the town. We don't get individual business financial reports, nor do we want to get those, but that's really the only method we would have to be able to try and make predictions in regards to future revenues outside of strictly ticket sale and sponsorship. The 2-day thing was, okay, well, they're talking about tourism, and, if you want people to come and stay the night, then that's another opportunity. You want people to come and spend money in your businesses instead of somebody just coming here and getting a lunch, going to the concert, going home. If they're staying here, they have to get a breakfast, lunch, and dinner type of thing. So expenditures increase exponentially type deal. So those were some of the other potential benefits that could be realized from that kind of outlook on a 2-day thing. But I totally hear what everybody's saying.
So that kind of goes back to, is our intention to sell as 2 separate events, or are we selling this as a package to where we would have people want to stay for that whole time? And then are we planning to add additional seats? If our expenses this year were $208,000, and now we're asking for essentially $250,000 per day, we're increasing our upfront by $50,000 or $40,000 a day, so that's $80,000 total. But where is that extra money needed coming from? Because like you said, if we're doing a 2-day event, then our second day expenses should essentially come down to some mark. So why are we doubling this for both days and adding money on top of it when our budget last year we made a profit off of already?
Yeah, so just as try to break that down. So our expenditure last year was set at 225. The budget was. So we budget 225 as expenditure, 225 as revenue. Our revenue obviously exceeded what that budgeted expenditure was, and we didn't spend as much as the budget allowed for that event. We would maintain consistency with that. So if our budgeted expenditure is at $500,000, it's never my goal to spend every single penny of that. That's just our best guess at this point. I would anticipate, just like everything else, there's going to be some cost increases with production. There's going to be cost increases with artists. So that's kind of the year over year, and a potential 11% increase would probably be pretty conservative with that. So I don't, Councilwoman Hawley, I don't know if I directly answer your question, but the 2-day thing and selling a bundled ticket, we have not discussed that thoroughly enough to say it has to be a 1 ticket for 2 days or 2 tickets for 2 days. that type of decision has not been made. Quite frankly, I would not hang my hat on a decision like that until this process has occurred and we've been able to talk about this as a full board and council to make a decision as to where we're going. Because again, you know, if a $500,000 budget doesn't get approved, then, you know, obviously we're not talking about a 2-day ticket offering, I guess, if I can help answer that question.
So my primary concern as a whole then would be finding out like what the insurance situation would be so that we have the ability to do that. Like if that's some astronomical number, then I feel like it's a lot of money to try to put in, not to have some sort of backup plan.
Yeah.
And I think it's been great for the last 2 years, and this year was wonderful. But again, if we have bad weather or something like that, we've now dedicated ourselves not just to 1 day, but 2 days with no fail-safe to that.
Sure.
And that's a lot of money to sit on, not to have any fail-safe in return. And I would hate for people that live in Surf City to again purchase tickets and invest their money as a business, and then we have something happen and they just have to eat it. So
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, I was gonna say that's my main thing. That would be the one thing that would cause me like major pause. I think it's a great event. I love the idea of going to 2 days. I think it's a wonderful way to bring revenue into the community, but I would want to see that as a definitive in the overall game plan before I felt good about moving forward with that dollar amount.
Yeah, and we did like we obtained quotes for rainy day insurance on this for 2023. Those it's all dependent on what you are insuring against in regards to quantity of rain in a certain time period. So obviously the lesser, and please correct me if I'm saying this wrong, the lesser amount of rain, the higher the cost of insurance goes. So you try to set that threshold. And what we ultimately based our decision on in regards to rain insurance was direct communication with production who works with the artists, and the reassurance from them that it is their number one goal and intention to come here and perform, not to travel here. It starts to rain and they are looking for any opt-out to not put on a show. So we felt confident, moving forward that, the intention is always to perform, not to back out of an event that they have signed up to do. And that's generally just the thought process, just to shed some light on that.
I think also Councilwoman Hawley, for example, like Scotty, even though we didn't have a rain date, Scotty said, look, if it rains Saturday, I'm willing to do Sunday. So there's a lot of back conversation with artists too. Like I bought a ticket to Darius Rucker. It rained out at Live Oak in Wilmington. I spent $358. They moved the concert to Sunday. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of times those artists work with you on that at that aspect also. Like Kyle said, they want to perform. So that's one of their objectives, is to perform. I wanted to talk about I want to get back to this money thing. It just really digs in my soul. We never think one time about spending. What's fireworks cost us? 50,000, 30,000. And I know it's good for the community, so don't get me wrong, love it. But we never think once about spending 30,000 on fireworks, and then all the other expense that goes along with that. So we put that out every year. But here we go. We got something that we make money on, and we can put money back into our budget and provide an experience that's wholesome and helps. There's not one negative to this aspect. And I know our job as a council is to spend time on all the ifs and the maybes and the if comes and the do's and the don'ts. But this is something that has proven itself. It is successful and it is profitable, and it doesn't cost us anything. And we provide something for our community and our businesses, our families, and it's enjoyable. And I think that you can't say any more than that. That is the bottom line here. You know, if this thing was costing us $30,000 or $40,000 a year, like fireworks, we shouldn't do it. But this is not the case in this situation. This is providing us with everything that this town needs in an off-season that is rough on our people around here. So I appreciate what we're doing here. And like you said, I know, Alicia, you're excited about it. You love it. I know that. And your questions are super valid. There's no doubt. But once again, I want to echo that Kyle is the most critical person there is on planet Earth about these things, our manager. And all these things that you are discussing, him and Jody sit down and beat on us about these items day in and day out, making sure we're covered. So I just want to say I really appreciate the questions that you have about it, for sure.
So is this something that we're approving for the budget, or is this something that we're proposing for when the budget gets presented and voted on?
This would be an item for consensus of council to move forward for a January approval to create the budget for this event, not part of the overall town budget process, because that process happening later, there's items that potentially need to be secured prior to July 1.
So then, I guess, and I'm not opposed to this necessarily, but again, I would like to see, even if we do, like, you can do vacation insurance when you go on a trip, where it's an added option for somebody. If they want to put it in there for an extra $30, they can add, you know, especially like, again, for our business sponsors. Most of our business sponsors are local, and some of them, it is a big hit for them to pay and get involved, and I don't ever want to take it away from them to where they feel like they can't do it, and it's only going to take that one time of having a bad experience for this to not look as good for everybody in the community as a whole. So, I just would like to see that as an option out there somewhere for us as sponsors, and then even for ticket purchasing, if that's a possibility.
Would that be something insurance would even cover, is to refund a sponsorship
It's
fee?
not going, and I would highly advise us as a town not getting involved in the sponsorship reimbursement stuff. You know, a business has got to understand that their sponsorship is going towards this event, you know, rain or shine, or whether, you know, it's going to happen or not. And there should be assurances provided that, you know, the town cannot refund sponsorship. You know, that's the bottom line to it. In regards to rainy day insurance, we again will get those quotes and make decisions on that, and I will be, you know, always committed to share with council what sort of quotes would come back and what those impacts would be on overall budget in regards to the event, you know, so that you can potentially purchase it or not. You know, it's a tough decision to make. It truly is. You know, when it comes down to this event, even for the one day.
Just real quick also, I think our anticipated revenue for this two-day event is, what is it, $600,000? Amanda, is that correct? Or Jody? Was it $600,000 was the anticipated revenue for this? So, okay. So once again, we're talking about expense, but the anticipated revenue is about $600,000. Also on sponsorship, so I want to say that on sponsorship, I was responsible for 95% of the sponsorship that came in as far as relationships with those businesses. And I will say that the 95% of the sponsors that I worked with knew when I spoke with them 100%, this is what we're doing, this is how it's going to work. If for some reason there's a hurricane for the weekend, we may not be able to put the event on, and we may be able to push it, and everybody knew the rules going into this. All the sponsors knew the rules going into this. So nothing was unclear. And people were still jonesing to want to be a part of it. once, I'm still going to sponsor it regardless. I'm going to, and I know that people, I've gotten email after email, when are we getting signed up for this next? So like you said, I think what we can do is we can look at as many safety nets, precautions as possible, but once again, but the sponsors did know that did know the rules up front. And there was no apprehensions from any of those I'd say 95% of the sponsors that I worked with. So.
Jody, you'd mentioned additional security and some other things. Where does that come from? Do we hire out a private
So we
place,
do.
or who would be that?
So we do hire out when it comes to our security. Some of that is hired out through a security company, and then some of it we get additional officers, fire and whatnot from other local organizations coming and work the event as well.
Now, do we reimburse them financially?
Our police officers, yes.
I'm talking about the
Security.
other agencies.
Security, yes, we pay them out. There's a contract for that. And then with our outside entities for police.
Mutual aid, they're operating under mutual aid.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Is that normal for an event that generates income?
It's via the relationship in which the chief has with the other agencies. There has not been a direct request for
Okay.
payment.
What's the possibilities of, I know we generated a survey with the ticket holders, what's the possibility of generating a survey with the local restaurants and businesses that sponsor and this, that, and see what their take is on, as far as whether, hey, we did see a spike and it was significant enough,
That follow-up is happening either right next week or right after the holidays to talk directly with sponsors.
And I'd like to see that go back to Surf City Live, and then Surf City Live 22, Surf City Live 23. As far as let's try to get a trend.
Okay, so the survey that did go out, it went out to sponsors and attendees, and then after the event, just like last year, we do work directly with sponsors, and we go through kind of like an interview process on what can we do better, what can we do, but we can generate a survey to all of our sponsors.
My biggest pause is, I understand, you keep saying this, you make it sound like it's a guarantee.
It is.
Well, it's not.
Well, nothing is.
Exactly.
Correct.
But that's the way you're representing it. I don't mean it in a
No,
bad
no,
way,
no,
but
I'm good with that. Yeah.
you're putting a big smiley face on it, and I'm cool with that, but there's always another side to the coin. So if we're doubling this up to today, not only have we doubled the potential of what the income will be, but we've also doubled the risk of loss.
Absolutely.
And I agree with you that we have a track record that's 2-0, but every year we've I don't want to say push the envelope, but, and this was before my time. You had the 22 event, very successful. We were very fortunate, no weather, and great, and we started a track record. But then we pushed the envelope a little bit more. Let's get more people, let's get a bigger crowd. Now we're pushing the envelope again. So yeah, it's 2-0, but it's not exactly apples and apples. It's a little bit of apples and oranges in there, and it's still the risk. I guess where I'm going with this, my knee-jerk reaction off the top, I'm very comfortable with the model of last year with the 1 day and maybe making some improvements and doing what to make it a better event. But if you ask me today, I'm not. The 2-day event is not in my brain right this minute. To me, I think that's too risky.
It sounds like, Jody, maybe we need some additional information. A printout of your presentation given to all of us would be very helpful. Maybe with just an estimated sheet of the additional cost to be, the cost of insurance as well, and just, any other additional costs that we see in improving the venue as well that has been discussed.
I'd like to add one more thing, too, to the survey that goes. You said you've already sent out a survey to the restaurants and businesses.
So all of our sponsors that were part of Surf City Live and our tickets, our attendees that purchased tickets, this information that's in this slideshow, that's who that went to.
Is there a way to, well, there's always a way, but is it feasible? And if it's not, that's fine. To clarify with these sponsors, hey, are you aware or do you understand or are you willing to take the risk? If for some reason this fails, you realize you're not going to get your money back. There is no safety net for the sponsorships.
Essentially, do you understand what you're signing up for?
Yeah, basically. But sometimes I don't know what I'm signing up for.
I'd like to see the same numbers on insurance and that information. It's extremely valuable. And then I know we've had some good relationships with the artists in the past and some things like that. I mean, where do you, I mean, what's the model for picking new artists, that's that's one of the biggest, numbers on the budget. So does that have any risk of changing and increasing, I don't know, but I mean,
So what we see is as we bring in bigger name artists, there's additional price tags
Right.
with that. So obviously we saw the difference in the increase from last year to this year. That was an older act, this is a newer act. We expanded from having, an opener and a headliner to 2 openers and a headliner. So again, when looking at those numbers, you are gonna see some increases depending on who you're bringing in.
right.
The chart that's there now, and I apologize, I can't read it.
I know, it's small, I'm sorry. I'll do
That top-
printouts.
Carla, can you bring that back up on here for a minute, that screen she's got on there?
Yeah, we see Alicia.
Chris.
Chris can do that.
Carla, pretend like you're doing some
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, just start typing. All right,
Yeah.
Still can't really read it. All right, that very first line in the blue, what does that say?
At the very top?
Yes, what is it?
That is our production and our main act, so that's how much we're paying our ECU production company with that main act, for them to oversee
Something
that.
that we use the facilitator of the talent, I guess. Is that-
So they're facilitating the talent, and they're directly working with those artist managers back and forth. So myself and Kyle are not having to work directly with them. We're working through one production company that's handling production and working with all of the management companies for each one of the acts.
All right, and what's that number?
So that's 57,312.50.
And it also covers all of the production costs.
Okay, that was what was throwing me off. And then what for the main, for Scotty, what was his number?
65.
So the other company basically gets paid the same as the talent. That just seemed, I don't, like I said, I'm not working this, so that seemed odd to me. I was like, well, man, I just thought that would be like a percentage of what the talent was, like a manager or whatever.
So the costs, and again, it's EC, their business or whatever, but they are responsible for, artist contracts include writers. You have to provide X, Y, and Z. You have to provide transportation from A to B. You have to provide meals at these times for this amount of people. Everything, all those expenditures are all within that contract. So that
So it's not, they're not Scotty's people. It's another entity that
it
handles.
works directly for us.
Okay.
Yes, and that's one thing, even going back to the first time we did this, as I had to kindly explain to Councilman Shugarts, is that we as a town are not getting into handling artists. We don't have the resources to be able to do that. That's too much for us. So, as he will say, I demanded a turnkey process, and that's what we did.
Okay.
So
So it's separate apart, even though it's to get, they're connected, but he's a
Correct.
separate entity that just, he's
I
you pay
didn't want to do it at first, but Kyle's okay with it.
I'm sure that's what.
Even if we did not work directly,
I didn't want that.
Oh, no, I know you did.
even if we didn't work directly with that vendor, we would be responsible for handling that aspect, production and whatnot. But this was, honestly, this was a cheaper option other than having individual staff members work on designating these individual things.
For some reason, I thought they were together, and I'm like, how's this guy getting the
Oh, I
same
can't
amount of
go out
money
and
as the
source a
town?
certain
Yeah.
drum set,
Yeah.
that they require
thank
or
you.
demand.
I have a question.
Jody?
What do we charge for sponsorship for our sports teams? Isn't it $1,000?
So we have different, we have ranges from $1,000 all the way down to $500 and
So let's
$250.
just, I'm just running this back in my head. On a $1,000 sponsor, which is similar to the sponsorship that one would take if they're going to sponsor this live event, individual or a company, it starts off at $1,000, correct?
Yes,
Live event.
yep.
So if we were hit, and I don't wish this upon us, but if we were hit with 2 or 3 hurricanes this summer, when we had these sporting events we put on, and our field was unusable, did those sponsors expect that $1,000 back? Did they have any, I mean, I don't know if you would know this, but would they have any expectations of, I want my money back because we couldn't use the fields, so my sponsorship didn't go anywhere? Just like if we have an event at this venue and somebody puts $1,000 in, I just can't imagine a business investing $1,000 in this for the third year. And if we do have a rain out, if you want to call it that, that they would be peeved that they invested $1,000 and the event didn't go on. That's just my opinion. I just don't know, we're comparing apples to apples or apples to oranges, but, basically if a business is warranting enough to invest $1,000, I would hope that they would at least think they would make more than that back in advertising their business for $1,000. And what do
They're
they
not doing
spend?
it to advertise, John.
Well-
People are doing it because they're getting food,
Well-
drinks, tickets backstage. That's why they're doing
Well,
it.
I
right?
understand
Right.
that, but they
Yeah.
also have an expectation of having their name up, and it promotes their business, whether you're a realtor, whether you're an individual, whether you're, you have a pizza place or whatever you're doing, you're putting it up there for that. And in the course of a year, what do they spend advertising that maybe they don't get back from? But this is like Jeremy said, they're also getting top-notch VIP treatment at a venue that they like to go to because it shows after the second year. The same people, if not more, are chomping at the bit to get a sponsorship. That's just my opinion. I mean, I don't know, to pursue this insurance thing, and who knows what it's going to cost us, but I don't know if the expectations are with the companies that are doing this, that they expect to get more than $1,000 worth of advertising out of it. They're sponsoring it, like Jeremy says. It's like if you go to a Rolling Stones concert, you're not going to spend $75. You could, maybe to park, but you're not going to spend that to walk into the venue, And these tickets, we keep these tickets to an affordable. So I mean, if I bought 4 tickets, event got rained out, it wouldn't be the end of my world. I'm not saying I got money to throw away, but I'm just saying it wouldn't, I'd say, well, things happen, but, if you would go to a concert at a big venue in Raleigh and spend $500 per ticket, it might be a different ballgame if you have 4 tickets. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you to all the staff that put in an extreme amount of work, not just Parks and Rec, but every department in the city that put in the amount of work that it takes to put on Surf City Live. I personally have spent $7,000 in the last 2 years advertising my personal company, and I think it was an awesome event. If I had to do it again, I would do it again, but it seems like today that we're not going to get a consensus to move forward without some additional information. So I just want to go down the line and start off with Miss Hawley. Are you a yes or a no?
No.
Trudy?
I'm going to be a no. I'd like to have the survey from the town, from the businesses. Yeah.
You, Cannady?
No.
Jeremy Shugarts?
Yes.
John
Yes.
Koloski?
I am, yes.
So we do not have a consensus to move forward this time. If you want to, we get back on the schedule for, I don't know, we're not moving forward with a workshop in January. So be in February if you want to bring additional information and maybe go in the meantime, send out your presentation to all of us in something that we can print off and look at the numbers more closely.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Printouts for all of council to have today, and then I will work on working with Carla to get that presentation emailed to each one of you as well.
Thank you. Next item is the radio replacement proposal. I'm going to call upon James Horn to come forward.
Get your podium for you, sir.
It's not stupid.
Morning, Council. Madam Mayor.
Good morning. You got a weather report for us first?
I do actually have a request before that. We have said the term hurricane far too much today. Dial that back just a little bit. As the board is probably aware, we are looking like we're going to have a impacts from a coastal low or a nor'easter Saturday through Monday. Timing's still kind of shaky. I haven't really received a whole lot of local products from our weather partners. However, I am told that there will be one at 11. As soon as I get that, I'll send it out for you all to review. We'll be working with staff to identify any type of actions we may have to take in preparation for it. At this point, I don't really have much more on it. So, wind, rain, and storm surge. We may end up losing some of the sand we picked up this summer. So, it's the hazard of living at the beach, I guess. But I'll keep you informed as I get the information. I thought the police chief and the fire chief were going to come up here with me and back me up on this. They just popped smoke on me. They're like, oh, no. Please. Yes. So we come before you today with a unique opportunity. Pender County is undertaking a large-scale radio replacement project. You know, their fleet is aging, so they are taking the forward steps of replacing with the current fleet from their vendor, and they have extended that opportunity down to us and to all non-Pender County agencies, right? So we are going to have the ability to kind of, in partnership with them and their high-volume purchase, get some pretty deep discounts on potential radios for us. See, I told you I wasn't going to read this stupid thing. We reviewed all of our fleet. Fire and police, they hold more radios than I do. They are the power users when it comes to radios. 66% of our radio fleet right now is no longer supported by the vendor. So what that means is if it breaks, it has to be replaced. It cannot be repaired. There are no upgrade options for that. The other 33% that we have is nearing its end of life. When I say end of life, a typical portable or mobile radio has a 12 to 15 year lifespan. The 33% is coming up on its 13th year. While Motorola has not said that they are discontinuing that particular model, it is falling in the line of the 12 to 15 year span. So. I just drew a blank, sorry. Good news, with Penders extending their opportunity, or this opportunity down to us, we have two things. One, we get the deep discounts per unit, and two, they have offered very generously to front the initial financial responsibility and allow us to repay them over a course of 10 years at 0% interest. That's really important because right now the Motorola interest rate is 5.4%. So that's very, very nice of them to offer that to, you know, non-county agencies. The chiefs work very hard in their staff to kind of look forward and take advantage of this because we're coming up on our 10-year replacement. It seems we always replace radios around every 10 years. The last one was in 2015, and that was when we shifted over from the old CDMA or the analog over to the P25 or the digital system, the radios that they currently carry now. So it's not a matter of if necessarily, it's more of a matter of when, and the chiefs will tell you they annually budget for replacement and repairs and additions and things like that, because it's hard to come to you, and I'm getting ready to tell you the number. It's an estimated investment of $1.1 million to do this project, if we were to do it, right? It's hard to do that, you know, every 10 years, especially when you look at financing versus buying outright, and I'm not going to get into that. But I do feel, and I think if the chiefs would like to throw anything in there, once we have our finalized numbers, right? So once the county gets their numbers and all the other agencies get their numbers, and we get those hard and fast totals back to Motorola, and they give us their final quote or unit price, we would like to bring that back to you for your review and consideration of funding. We do feel it's a good idea.
At this point, the radios will stop working at some point in the future. We either make that investment now at a deep discount, or we pay 2 to 3 times more at some point in the future. That's the way I look at it, and the discount that the county's going to give us and what we're going to save on interest, to me, is we need to step forward and move forward with this. It's going to save us money in the long run.
What percentage do you think the discount is?
43?
Yeah, 43%. So I'll say that this started about 3 years ago from the Pender County Fire Commission. The fire departments in Pender County have about 400 radios in total. And we utilize a system that is manned and operated by the State Highway Patrol. And we recognize that here in Surf City, our fire department is much better off than the other volunteer and even municipal fire departments, because we did do a radio program upgrade 2015?
15.
So we are in a better position than they are. They have radios that are going to just completely stop working. We have those as well, but we presented at the fire commission level, the Pender County Firefighters Association presented to the county commissioners a project to replace only a handful of radios for each fire department, and that cost estimate, if I remember right, was like $650,000 to $700,000. Obviously, they didn't approve that, but it got the ball rolling. The Pender County, their government officials got together and they said, "Hey, we need to do something for these fire departments. We've got to get this radio program going. How do we fund this and allow the fire departments to pay us back?" So then the sheriff's department said, "Hey, you know what? Our radios are the same position. We're going to have to replace them as well. They have way more radios than we have." EMS, Pender County EMS said, "Hey, well, we're in that same position." So that's when the whole thing got really kind of blown up, and then we started looking at the municipal police departments. And then it really got out of the fire commission's hands, and it went straight to the county manager's office. And now he has a project manager that's working directly with one of the radio specialists from Pender EMS and Fire. James has been really fortunate. We have James to be able to read some of our radios to figure out exactly what we have, what's going to work with the new system upgrades. So it's really evolved into a complete project for Pender County as a whole. And for them to be able to offer that financing to us really is a no-brainer. I don't know exactly what PD budgets every year, but we budget anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 just to replace radios, because we know that these radios are going to be coming to end of life. So really what we budgeted for in the past couple of years on an annual basis is going to be pretty close to what an annual payment is going to be for a complete radio upgrade. So that's all I have. Just kind of want to give a backstory on really where it started and where it is today. It has evolved into a huge program for the county as a whole.
The lead time on the radios actually being delivered to us is about a year and a
Yep.
half. If we wait until our radios stop working to make the purchase and go forward with the program, we're just not going to have radios for public safety. Fire department, police department, we're just not going to be able to communicate. We don't want to get to that point.
No, we don't.
Be proactive and make sure that we have the equipment and technology in place that we need to move into the future.
All right, so what are we asking for here? What are we?
You're asked to do nothing other than listen to just their presentation. I wanted, since we got this information, I asked James to get in front of y'all and give you the background. Highway Patrol, you understand a lot of this stuff. You know,
The radios and the keys and
they brought me into their discussion with the county. I said, I have one goal of this. I don't want to know any more about technology of radios.
they work.
But I want to know they work, and I want to know that the equipment we have is the best that we can get for our emergency services personnel. And what also they didn't mention, no fault of theirs, but we will then, once we get this done, we'll still have radios that are usable that can be distributed or can sit as a cache or just a holding tank for quality radios for other town operations. We don't think there's a huge return if you sell them on gov deals or to try to auction them off. It's an asset back to the town, but it's a negligible, sort of return for us. But ultimately, I asked James to put something together to get you guys warmed up to the idea. Chief Wilson had said no brainer. I was going to say the same thing. If it's something we have to have and we can save 43% on this purchase and do it collectively and have all of the top technology for the services that they provide, and also through communication with Pender EMS and Fire, Pender County. All these agencies are now operating under the same tools, and hopefully repair, replacement, all that stuff can sort of fall under one umbrella. So.
Sure.
All right, thank you. I'm assuming when you do bring it back to us, it will be split up as far as budget-wise between all three departments?
It doesn't, no, because it's all a general fund procurement, so we'll just do a project for it. We talked to Melissa about it. Got to clear some things with finance, but ultimately we'll be looking for some sort of formalized agreement with the county as the funding agency. There's got to be an MOU or interlocal agreement of some sort, but also too, we won't have to obligate the entire amount of funds. We'll budget for those funds every year, but it'll be documented as a liability on our balance sheet carrying forward, just what we would owe the county. I think I serve that finance justice a little bit. She educates me all the time, so. That's right, yeah. So we actually make money by keeping money in the bank, so.
There you go.
All right, thank you very much.
Guys. Thank you.
Chief, are you staying up? Okay, that's
got it,
Kyle.
Mayor.
The Police Grant Fund 10?
So this is to recognize the budget appropriation that Representative Smith and Senator Jackson worked very hard, and we're very appreciative for $200,000 that was earmarked within the state budget. Those funds we had discussed prior to legislative sessions, some of the small item needs in which we had. So Representative Smith, we submitted, and he met with a couple council members, met with myself. We submitted a list to him. That list totaled about $350,000. We got $200,000, but this action through consensus will just budget that as a revenue, the $200,000 under the police department, because that's how the language in the budget was presented. But we'll budget that as a $200,000 revenue so that we can expend those funds on the items that were documented, which off the top of my head included a new UTV for ocean rescue, a new drone for emergency management and other departments, a new message board sign, a couple other things of that nature. But we have to document the revenue before we can spend it.
Any questions? Do we have a consensus to move forward?
Yes.
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 All right, thank you very much. Next item, no wake zone resolution.
All right. Thank you again, Madam Mayor and Council. This is a localized step in the process of trying to obtain a no wake zone within our jurisdiction. No wake zones are typically governed within the state under Wildlife Resources Commission. However, dealing with the Intercoastal Waterway as an element of that, we bring the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers into the play. But what we have seen is due to an increase of population, increase of boating activities, stand-up paddle boards, et cetera, generally in and around the Sears Landing area, across the waterway, over to the Topsail Channel and into the Soundside Park boat landing. The only areas that are protected through a no wake zone are the actual circular basin of where the boat ramp exists, not necessarily the channel that even leads up to the boat ramp. Also the channel behind the businesses on Roland, such as JM's, Max's, et cetera. That's all considered a no wake zone today. What we are asking the state to do is to recognize the additional areas that are listed in the Surf City map labeled Surf City No Wake Zone, that are highlighted in sort of that yellow hash mark, to be considered by Wildlife Resources Commission for a no wake zone, and then that request would go to the Army Corps to look at the intercoastal waterway to consider that portion because that's where their jurisdiction lies. No wake zones on intercoastal waterways do not apply to commercial vessels. So I just want to give you that information. But what this board has to do in order for us to formally apply with Wildlife Resources Commission is to hold a public hearing and consider a resolution that's been prepared in your packet at your next meeting. So this would not move to consensus. It would move to new business in which you would hold a public hearing, listen to the public if they have concerns over this. And then if the council approves the resolution, we would send that package to Wildlife Resources Commission. Happy to try to answer any questions you have. There's a ton of info, pictures, graphs, et cetera, within your packet.
I'm looking at the agenda as a total, so page 52.
Let's see, let me get to 52. Yes, sir.
All right, I see some yellow.
Yeah.
And in the middle is open, and then on 53, everything is yellow. So which one are we looking at? I mean, what are we trying to do?
If I can refer back to 52. So the items in yellow is what is requested of Wildlife Resources Commission. That is within their jurisdiction to consider and apply those rules. What is shown in blue on 52 is existing no wake zone today. So as I mentioned, the intercoastal waterway does not fall within their jurisdiction. However, we would forward the request to the Army Corps of Engineers, which would then lead to a potential no wake zone identified on page 53 of your overall package. That includes those areas plus the intercoastal waterway.
Okay. All right, on 52, that looks like it would be protection for those areas you were talking about with the Sears Landing and the boat ramp and the kayakers and stuff coming out of the kayak launch. What's the advantage of blocking the whole thing off?
Well, you have the one stop. You have a lot of rental boats coming out of there. I don't know if they rent any sort of stand-up paddleboards or anything like that, but you generally have the traffic that is coming from the boat ramp and or behind the Topsail Channel going across the intercoastal over into Sears Landing. So the southwestern portion is for the boat rental area within the one-stop location. The adjacent across the intercoastal waterway is leading up to our basin, which also will include the public safety boat, the boat lift, et cetera, over there at the park. And then everything in blue is already existing within the Topsail Channel.
For the actual zones, just thinking with signage, so the no wake zone would basically start like underneath the bridge.
Yeah, if you're traversing northeast on the intercoastal waterway, buoys would be placed outside of that channel. We'd have to get guidance on Wildlife Resources Commission on exactly where those would have to go, but we would anticipate those happening probably right after the bridge as you're heading northeast.
Okay, it just, for me, boating as much as I do, having that signage, like if until people realize it's there, once they get through the bridge trying to see it, so I think it would be beneficial maybe even to start on the other side of the bridge, just so that when you're heading north on the intercoastal, you have that additional area. I don't know how well that's gonna work.
Yeah, we will work with Wildlife Resources to try and get the signage, so that it gives people preparation to slow down. And this area, I will also know when the swing bridge was in existence, included a no wake zone, and that went away with the high-rise bridge. So I think people who have been here probably naturally slow down a little bit just because they know of the traffic. But it's a lot of the new boating activity, and we think that this is a proactive approach before a catastrophic accident would occur. It does not prevent anything. I don't want to say that, but
Is this a vote or consensus?
it would be a consensus. Again, you'll have to hold a public hearing, and then what you would be voting on would be the resolution that's been presented to you at your January 10th meeting. And this does not guarantee that we will get anything. So.
And just so everyone knows, that's where our water line
Yes,
goes under where the swing bridge was, and we do have plans to put an additional water line in that same location, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, 2. Yeah. So yeah, major infrastructure that feeds the entire island is here, and yeah, so it's a pretty important location for the town and for the whole island, honestly.
So do we have a consensus to move forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you, Mayor.
That concludes all the business on the agenda today. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you.